Hi, everybody. My name is Lindsay, and I'm a Bravoholic. Welcome to Bravoholics Anonymous. I'm Lindsay, and this is our safe space support group where we gather weekly to discuss all things reality TV and Bravo. From housewife scandals to summer house meltdowns, Traitors betrayals, and Vanderpump chaos, no reality TV moment is safe. And this week, we have a ton to talk about before the Traitors finale this Thursday. So let's jump right into a new segment that I'm calling the Doomscroll Diaries. Welcome to the Doomscroll Diaries, where I sacrifice my screen time so you don't have to. In other words, I saw a ton online this week that I want to cover here on the episode because it ties into either the shows we love or the people we love watching. And first up, we have the number one man in the group himself, Jax Taylor, appearing on Virtual Reality, talking about some big pressing news in his life. A recently announced sobriety.
Kind of coming, this is tough to say. So I am coming out that I'm an addict. I have substance issues, primarily with cocaine. Ooh, that's hard to say out loud. Yeah, I've been dealing with this for, I think the last, on and off since I was 23, so I'm 45, so give or take. I've been, there was times where I would stop doing it, but then there was times where I'd go heavy on it. I think a lot of people who watched Vanderpump Rules over the years could kind of tell that I was on something.
So that was some pretty big news. I know that people had their suspicions about Jax Taylor's use of the pasta, so to speak, on the show, especially with his deviated septums and frequent nose jobs. But it's, interesting that he's coming to terms with his addiction, and we wish him the best of luck on his path to sobriety. I'm sure it'll be a conversation point on the new season of The Valley, along with his divorce to Britney. God, I can't imagine what Britney put up with being married to Jax. But I am really excited for the new season of The Valley, and I do plan to be covering it on the podcast. So let's look forward to that. Next up on the Doomscroll, this season on Southern Charm, Shep Rose, a staple on the show, cast member that we are all familiar with, originating back to season 1, has been having some trouble with Miss Bahamas, this girl Ciara that he's been super into, and he is chasing someone who is very unavailable and not interested at this point in a relationship with him, but he is continually professing his love and doubling down. And while I was scrolling, I came across someone did a musical version of his uber cringy text message to Ciara. This was posted by Reality Ops.
Good morning, Sienna. Listen, I love seeing you and no one else, no one. But I'm not gonna try to convince someone they love me for 3 days, especially when I know deep down they do. Is hoping you understand my feelings and exalt them. I just don't feel this way ever. I know that you agree and feel a lot of what I do, because I've heard it from your perfect little freckled lips, and those around us can say and think what they will. But we will have the last laugh, and we'll have love, laughter, and everything that matters.
Okay, my TED Talk is over.
It was so cringy that he ended this profession of love to Ciara with, okay, my TED Talk is over. This man's in his 40s. Taylor's having a great time watching this. They all went to meet Ciara. When they showed up, Ciara started acting weird. She tried to talk to Shep before they came out, and he wanted to save the conversation for when he got into town. I think he knew it wasn't going to be good, or he was just being blindly optimistic. He did come out in an interview recently and say that he puts everything into the show, including his relationships, which is probably partially why this hasn't gone well for him. But I gotta say, Taylor's having the last laugh watching all of this go down. And meanwhile, there are still women on the show that are interested in him. Molly, and probably honestly Sally, if Shep showed Sally some interest. Either of them would probably still get with Shep. So, I mean, no matter how low and pathetic the guy gets, he's still got millions of options. Next on my doom scroll, everyone is talking about an article that came out in People magazine with White Lotus star Lachlan Ratliff, who is the younger brother of the Parker Posey family in the new season of HBO's White Lotus. If you're not watching it, it's a great show. You should definitely clue into it. They are talking about how the show's creator, Mike White, told the actors playing each member of this family on the trip to watch Southern Charm and reference certain characters on Southern Charm. So there are rumors swirling that Parker Posey's character is inspired by Miss Pat or Patricia, Whitney's mom, that the father is modeled after none other than Thomas Ravenel. Some people think that the sons are based off Craig or Austin, but there is one thing they're talking about. The daughter in the group of children is not inspired by Southern Charm characters because she's kind of like the black sheep intellectual of the family. Also, the actress playing that character is from the South, so maybe she didn't need a direct reference point. But everyone's talking about Southern Charm and White Lotus mashing up, and two of my favorite shows, I had to talk to you guys about it. So let me know what you think. If you're not following me on TikTok or Instagram, you can always drop a comment. I'm always sharing new episodes on there. Tell me what you think. Further on in the doom scroll, next up, we have Summer House's Carl Radke.
Hey guys, welcome to Soft Bar. Here we are in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, the best neighborhood, I believe, in New York City. We have an amazing opportunity here at Soft Bar, and the only way we can really bring this to life is we need a little bit of your help. And what we're asking you guys is to get involved. We are doing a crowdfunding campaign, so you can own a piece of Soft Bar. You can head on to republic.com/softbar. You can invest as little as $250. I hope you get involved. Come on over to Greenpoint, Brooklyn, to the original and first Soft Bar. Thanks, guys.
Yes, he's opening the non-alcoholic bar. He's decided to call it Soft Bar. And he is also crowdfunding the opening of this bar. So he's not paying for it. He doesn't have investors paying for it. He wants you to pay for it. Buy his merch and send him money and be a part owner of his non-alcoholic soft bar. Do I trust Carl to manage and operate a bar when he's never done anything like that before? No. I think that for this pitch video to gone off better, he should have presented a partner, someone who does have experience doing something like this, but also maybe chose better branding and a better name for the bar. I hate the name Soft Bar. If anything, it just reminds me of his constant bickering with Lindsay that she needs to be softer. I understand that it's supposed to be the opposite of hard spirits or hard alcohol, but I don't think soft is a great choice because it recalls a really bad part of his life that I watched on TV and it associates it with the bar. I think he should have called it Summer House. Or called it something that literally sounded like a positive good time. And if you wanted to reference his show in that way and make it almost like a Vanderpump Sir, something about her, Schwartz and Sandy's Tom Tom thing, you incorporate his name into the bar, Summer House into the bar, Loverboy into the bar, something else besides the soft of it all. Next on my doom scroll, I have a ton of Traitors clips. And this is because leading up to the finale and the reunion, our Traitors cast has been going and doing tons of press, tons of podcasts, tons of web shows, Good Morning Americas, et cetera, et cetera. And the juiciest sound bites are coming from some of these podcasts. So first up, I have Ciara on TikTok. There's lots of clips of Ciara and Dolores talking about how Danielle was playing the game that we didn't see on camera.
I was genuinely shocked at Carolyn being a traitor. And Danielle, I was like kind of disgusted that she was a traitor. I just didn't respect her game playing. I just felt like, you know, there was some off-camera swearing on kids, grandkids, or whatever, and I just was like, I just didn't feel like the stakes were that high.
Right.
Granted, I don't play game shows for a living, so I don't know, but it just felt like ridiculous to me.
Yeah, the tears were a little much.
The tears were a lot, and I'm like, these people aren't actually dead. And also, then come to find out, like, bitch, you're doing the killing?
Right. Yeah.
Why are you crying?
Yeah.
This is so dramatic.
The dynamic between the gamers and specifically the Bravo celebrities is kind of my favorite part of the show. I think it's just so fascinating, and I watch everything for the most part, but my allegiance is with Bravo.
My allegiance was with Bravo, too.
Right.
Like, going in, I was like, I'm never going to vote for anyone on Bravo. Literally never.
And did you never?
I don't think I ever voted for anyone on Bravo.
Even
Actually,
Tom?
No, I never even voted for Tom.
That was an interview with US Weekly, but there are tons of Ripple interviews with similar sound bites. Ciara and Chrishell have been going around and talking all about how Danielle came up to them and swore on her kids and her grandkids' lives that she was not a traitor. And I think it really worked with these women that have families and don't come from competition shows. Watching Big Brother in the past, there's been numerous people that have come on and lied about spouses having cancer or terminal illnesses, about having children and they don't have children, all sorts of things that they feel will get them to at least the point of like jury on Big Brother. And I think Danielle came in ready to play all of those cards, especially after being kicked off of Big Brother Reindeer Games so early in the season that it was on. Big Brother Reindeer Games was an expedited competition show holiday special that CBS released on Paramount Plus. There's only ever been one season of it to date, and it was an all-star lineup with daily eliminations leading up to a big Reindeer Games competition where 4 competitors that remain would go in and compete for the major cash prize. The history of Britney and Danielle and the, quote, betrayal, end quote, of that season, I recapped this week on my TikTok page. So if you want to hear the detailed play-by-play of Danielle being eliminated from Big Brother Reindeer Games, allegedly at Britney's hand, you can find it at my TikTok account, which is Filmmaker, Filmmakeher. Or Lindsay St. Laurent. You can look that up too. But to give you the gist of it all, it wasn't a major betrayal. I think that these competition shows often use rivalries between people to create a sense of drama. And in this case, a sense of reuniting between Danielle and Britney on Traitors. I know The Challenge does this all the time with competitors or exes. They had a whole season of exes and of rivals and arch nemeses. So it's not foreign territory in these competition shows to play that stuff up. And I do think that they are playing it up. After rewatching the Reindeer Games episodes leading up to Danielle's, I don't know, I want to call it an eviction, I guess, but the Santa showdown that had her evicted, which was in episode 3, because Danielle's not great at challenges. I actually saw a lot of parallels to this season of Traitors and what we've seen from Danielle, and that is the fact that she does a really bad job of making her allies feel secure. We saw it in the last episode that we watched with Thomas and recounted with Thomas here on the show when Dylan came out of the room and all of a sudden Danielle's calling him sus. When Dylan is an ally of Danielle. She doesn't think certain things through and she makes her allies feel insecure, and that's not good on Traitors when it comes to questioning someone's loyalty or if they're faithful. The biggest problem Danielle had was just that. She was in 3 different alliances 3 days in, and she was hanging out with Xavier almost exclusively. And Britney and the other women in this all-girls alliance saw her hanging out with Xavier almost exclusively before this big Santa's Showdown challenge, and they questioned her loyalty to them because she was sitting next to him when challenges were announced. She was sitting next to him, talking to him on the couch in between challenges. She was whispering to him in rooms, and she wasn't going to Britney or the girls first for these types of conversations. And in Big Brother, who you're hanging out with and who you're talking to are oftentimes who you're aligned to. That's how Britney's reading the scenario. And when going into this big competition where everyone has to compete, but after you compete in a time window, the next person you choose has an even smaller time window to complete this maze. They all started deciding, am I going to give it to a friend so they have the most time possible and they don't get chosen way down the road? Or am I going to give it to an enemy that I think isn't going to be able to do the maze in this amount of time? And that was the big debate. And that was also how people were playing it socially. So, for example, Frankie chose Xavier to go into the game. And when Xavier came back, succeeding the maze, Frankie said, see, dude, I knew you could do it. And I wanted to give you as much time as possible to do it. And then if Xavier was eliminated because he couldn't complete the maze in that window of time, then Frankie had a major competitor eliminated from the game. So that's kind of the strategy of how this thing went down. And Britney chose Danielle to go in because Xavier chose Britney to go in. Britney went and begged for her life to Xavier, the person that Danielle, one of her allies, has been hanging out with. And then Xavier still chose her. And she wondered, why did Xavier choose me? Didn't Danielle try to save me? Didn't Danielle say anything to save me? When she said that to Frankie and to Nicole, they said, call Xavier in here and ask him. And so she did that. And Xavier was like, I was told to put you in. And then she sent Danielle in to her demise because Danielle did not finish the maze in the window of time.
The reindeer game stuff, and I was like, wait, what? This is something like the drama. This is something any idiot would do. You didn't do anything wrong.
You know, I know she hates me. She's like had an active vendetta against me for the last 6 months over a show that was narrated by elves and that was where we were tasked with saving Christmas for the children of the world, okay? We were cartoon characters sledding down hills. She was so angry at me for what transpired in that peppermint forest that I knew that I just had to eat. I just had to just eat it up.
So you did.
It up and apologize.
Yeah.
Because
Wow.
from my perspective, I'm like, she could be a traitor and
Right.
she will absolutely kill me first.
Yep.
Or, you know, like that's the fear.
My God, sorry. I just looked at the soft bar merch and why do I want this hat? I don't need another hat. And I hate Carl Radke and I hate soft bar, but it's almost like so much hate that I want to buy the hat. Someone talk me out of buying this hat. While doom scrolling, I actually saw someone else repost another clip from that same interview, and that absolutely has to be shared as well, because I think it's so interesting to see Carolyn and Britney together comparing notes and talking about Danielle, because up until this point, I feel like Britney is working with Danielle, but also maybe something's about to happen between the two of them that's going to cause a riff. And I think we're all just really reading into a lot of these things, trying to assume what happens at the finale this week.
I'm talking early. What's freaking crazy, Brittany, is like that can be your theory, but like how much all of this stuff with Danielle just keeps getting ignored. It's crazy. Like the group mentality, the like, it's true. Like that is in your head it's crazy, but early on.
Here's what I think.
I'm talking early on. I'm talking early on.
You mean like the way she behaved in challenges and stuff?
No.
And crying and all that?
I'm saying early on, like how we can like be like, that person is, your behavior changed a little bit. Yeah, it's you. It's like the group like mentality of like, oh, all right, everyone's voting Ciara tonight.
That is like the nature of it. It's like if someone puts a name out there, from that point on, it's a snowball rolling down the hill, gathering speed and getting bigger. And like all you need is a name and it takes off because everybody is inclined to go with it because it's not them. It's like, well, at least it's not me.
What's freaking crazy, Brittany, is like that theory, but like
That was a really great clip too, because it talks about the snowball effect and how people are just happy it's not them. And I really do believe that's what happened with Ciara. We talked about it here on the show, and I just think that they all just wanted to get Ciara out, and she didn't have enough people left in the game that cared about her staying. So she lost that battle. Okay, great. Here's another clip with Carolyn and Entertainment Weekly in an interview where she talks about how Traitors is harder than Survivor.
Easier or harder than Survivor?
harder. Okay. Harder. Oh, and I do want to talk about this. I got ink all over Boston Rob's. Like, girl, I had ink all over like the letter. So I'm getting, oh my God. So, we just signed the thing and I got ink all over it. Like, seriously, I would have been in prison from the handprint or the fingerprints if I was like for going away for murder. So anyway, then I get like ink and there's ink all over Boston Rob's face. And I'm just thinking in my head, oh my God, I got ink all over his face. Oh my God, what am I going to do? And then I'm like, there's ink on your face. And he's like, get it off. And I'm like, I'm not touching your face. I'm not going to touch Boston Rob's face. And then he's like, just spit and like get it off. And I just went like this. I go, no, I'm not. I go, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not touching you, like your face. I can't. I'm uncomfortable. Like, I don't want to, like, I'm not putting my spit on Boston Rob. Are you crazy? No. You know how, like, girl.
Carolyn is nuts. And I think that's why everyone on the internet is obsessed with her. She's nuts. And she's so nuts that after, spoiler alert, okay, because we're about to talk about Traitors. We're definitely segueing into Traitors and recapping up until the finale. But after Carolyn's eviction, she goes on TikTok and she posts this.
So in Scotland, I kept a journal and I wrote a bunch of poems. So here's one of them. Imagine loving this show and being so excited to have fun and play this game, and then you show up with your JCPenney hat wanting to play hard. I get it, girl, but we're not the same. They say that expectations will leave you frustrated and sad. I didn't expect to be around constant shaking and crying, so yeah, I guess that was my bad. You're not just a traitor. You're keeping Visine in business, too. JK, girl, I hope that those Big Brother fans are proud of you. Good game.
That was wild. And that was a poem by Carolyn about Danielle. And as she's reading it, she's wearing a ridiculous tan hat, which I thought was really funny. And the rivalry lives. I mean, Carolyn's bitter and she's not afraid to talk about it, the betrayal of it all.
Like, I thought that we were just going to do like the fakey nice thing, but we didn't do the fakey nice thing. Carolyn says to Brittany Haynes's comments. What? So very quickly, Dylan makes an exit, says that he has to go unpack. And I'm like, okay, yeah. So Carolyn sits down and just in true Carolyn fashion, she's like, well, let's just call it awkward because this is uncomfortable, isn't it? Like, don't we feel uncomfortable? And I'm like, I would talk to Tom. Stop. He had his mind on the task at all times of the day. There was no point in the day where he was counting his macros like Sam.
Everything's healthy.
Oh, Sam. Or, I don't know, aimlessly making tea by himself like Ivor. Tom was actually working, okay? I don't think that there was ever a moment where he wasn't vibrating. Normally, I would always just be like, not this one either. It's not this one either, Tom. It's not Chriselle, and it's not Dolores. We're going to need to regroup, recalibrate, reset. Let's go again. Because it was always wrong.
Coming for all 5 of you.
How do you have your eyes on 5 people? What are we going to have a mass execution happening in the Traitors' Castle?
Make it 6, Wes.
You teed me right up for saying make it 6. You absolutely teed that up.
That was from Brittany's TikTok, and she did a montage obviously talking about her house guests and their style of play. So that one also got tons and tons of views on TikTok. And here's another one that got a lot of traction on Access Hollywood.
Without a doubt, Danielle has been like the most chaotic and messy. And that's not like the magic of editing. That is like what was unfolding before my eyeballs every single day. And I felt so weird about the fact that no one else was seeming to notice it. Like I felt like the only one with eyes. Like it was just so bizarre. Crying and the dramatics of everything. And it was like, no one else was noticing. Like I basically was wearing a WWPD bracelet. What would production do? And it was like, okay, who would they choose? You know, even down to like what people were paid. Like you're like, oh, I know you were paid way more than me. They're going to want to get that money back. Joke's on them, actually, because those of us who got paid peanuts are kind of the ones making the most of the show. But anyway, so yeah, you definitely have this idea of like what makes sense from a production standpoint. And to that end, I would even notice who cameras were following more often. I literally one time this is when I voted against Jeremy. I walked into the kitchen. There's not a soul in there except for Jeremy, silently eating a plate of food, all alone, 6 cameras. Jeremy's a traitor. Like, why would there be 6 cameras on this dude who's eating by himself in the kitchen? Meanwhile, no cameras are following me anywhere I go. I'm like, I'm over here. Like, does anyone need a moment? Like, do we need to get a camera? No one's following me at all. 6 cameras on Jeremy chewing? I was like, that guy's got to be a traitor.
And that was such a good clip too, because when I saw that video, I was like, oh my God, this tells me so much. It must be hard for the traitors to all meet up and slip into the bookcase to pick their next target or to find a relic or whatever their challenge is, because the camera teams are following them. Britney saw Jeremy eating in the kitchen with like 6 cameras on him and no one's following her around. I never felt like I related so much to somebody on the show. I was like, that would literally be me. I'd be walking around the house, looking for where production is, seeing who's pushing what storyline, where the cameras are, and no one would probably be filming me at all. And that's fine because I would win Traitors. But I really like hearing Britney talk about things, and that goes into our most recent episode when she is brought on as a traitor, because we hear a style of gameplay that we haven't heard yet this season, which is very direct and it's very strategic, and it is choosing a target based on eliminating who's not a big threat to who is a big threat, and how it'll look and who will look guilty of doing that murder. All right, one more thing on the Doomscroll before we jump into catching up on Traitors and getting ready for the finale here. And that is that Chanel Ayan has been tweeting again, as we know she's been doing. And she tweeted that a house guest is in love with another house guest, and it's someone we'd never expect. And Twitter and TikTok are abuzz trying to figure out who it is. And this next clip leads into the most popular theory that I'm hearing.
In prison, put me in jail.
Is there someone on the show that you connected with, you were surprised to have connected with?
Tom Sandoval. Put me in prison. Put me in jail.
No, you don't have to go to jail, but you do need to tell me the backstory. What happened with Tom?
Tom Sandoval, like, I didn't know who the hell he was. I don't watch Vanderpump. And people are warning me about him from the day I got in. People were like, he's a narcissist. He cheated on his blah, blah, blah. So I went up to him. I'm like, girl. He's like, yeah, I was like the most hated man in America in 2000 something. And I'm like, here's the deal. Like, and he just got real with me, and he told me a bunch of stuff, and he told me his struggles, and he told me that's how I connect with people. And I'm like, I've done some messed up crap in my day. If I were to be judged forever because of my past and my mistakes, come on. And it's like, God, I wish you would just lean into your weird more. Stop trying so hard to like fit in with people. Stop trying so hard. Like they're not gonna take you seriously. They're not listening to you. They're not. So stop.
Yeah.
That's a gay ass name for a gay ass pod.
And that was an interview with That's a Gay Ass podcast. But I think it makes the most sense. Carolyn was protecting Tom, and Carolyn is like a sober coach, and she's sober now, and she has a dark past. And it doesn't surprise me that she believes in second chances and hearing people out and being in. And Tom's a weird dude. He's into all sorts of stuff. I actually think I can see it. So that's my theory. That's a really popular theory that's going around TikTok too. There are other ones like people are shipping Ciara and Dylan, and people are, shipping Gabby and Chrishell. I don't believe any of it. Some people are saying Nikki's in love with Dylan. I mean, we're all in love with Dylan. Aren't we all in love with Dylan? I think we're all on that page. So that's not a surprise, but I could see like Chanel Ayan thinking that Carolyn's in love with Tom, and like that's some groundbreaking news. Well, that's it today for the Doomscroll Diaries. Let's dive into Traitors and getting ready for this finale this Thursday. So first things first, there's a lot of rumors going around that Danielle told Britney that she's a traitor. And we haven't seen any evidence of that. But in Big Brother language, I do see an opportunity where Britney could have easily found out that Danielle's a traitor. And it was in the episode right before the chess match when Britney and Danielle are sitting down together after breakfast. Britney says to Danielle, "I was going to cry if you didn't come back." And they're both like tearing up. But Danielle doesn't say, "Yeah, I was scared you weren't going to come back either," or anything like that. Like she doesn't say anything that makes it sound like she was a fearful faithful too. And I think Britney is so sharp. She could easily pick up on that. I think Britney's known from the beginning that Danielle is a traitor and something's going on with with Danielle. I think we could tell from that Doomscroll diary post on TikTok where Britney's in an interview saying how erratic Danielle was being. But I think this was a moment that was solidified for Britney that Danielle was a traitor before she was recruited. Then we go into the chess match. And I think everybody watching Traitors US was screaming at the TV because Carolyn majorly fucked up. She fucked up so bad in this game. This game of chess ruined Carolyn. It ruined her. And I think tensions in the turret got so high between Danielle and Carolyn and Rob and Danielle and Carolyn and Bob and Rob and Danielle and Carolyn that going into planning this chess game, Carolyn was like using her voice in her chest and wanting to control what was happening. And she wasn't thinking at all about how it would telegraph and who they were ultimately looking to mislead the faithfuls to believing was a traitor. And Danielle, in arguably the first smart move she made of the season, sat back and let Carolyn do it. And it was almost like a role reversal in the turret because usually Carolyn sits back and lets Danielle and Rob duke it out about who's going to be kicked off next, who's going to be murdered. But in this case, the one time Carolyn steps forward and wants to have the control of the situation, she screws it up and she literally projects that she is a traitor, and Dylan is on to her almost immediately. I thought it was really telling too, after the segment that we just had where we listened to the conspiracy theory that Carolyn's in love with Tom, that in the chess game, Carolyn chose Tom as the biggest threat for Traitors, which gives him a lot more credit. And I think Tom is the only other person that would agree with that statement. Who's slithering under the radar, Britney, sounds like another thing Carolyn would say because she's not, closely aligned with Britney. Danielle is. Who's the leader of the pack? Dylan. I think everyone would have picked that. And whose voice is most irrelevant? She chose her own. And then she referenced something to the group that no one remembered, that like no one listens to her. She's always saying no one listens to her. And like all of that stuff combined really sunk her ship. And I think we were all screaming at the TV because we were all going for Carolyn. I wanted to see Carolyn in the finale. I wanted to see her trying to convince Tom that she was a faithful and, you know, Tom not knowing what to do. So the group gets 10K out of the 20K playing the chess match. And Dylan and Tom are together in the car on the way back talking about Carolyn and Dolores having a weird moment. Dylan is really intuitive. I think the one thing that is so interesting about Dylan, who's an Aquarius, is how grounded he is and how he trusts his gut. He's playing the game with his gut, and it's been leading him in the right direction this whole time. And I really hope he doesn't stop doing that going into the finale. Okay, leading up to the round table, it's Danielle versus Carolyn, and we know it's a showdown that's going to happen. I know we're all rooting for Carolyn, but she doesn't bring it. She doesn't bring it, and it's a total bummer. The votes go as follow. Carolyn votes for Danielle. Ivor votes for Carolyn. Dolores votes for Tom. Oh my God, Dolores, I'm going to kill you. Danielle votes for Carolyn. Gabby votes for Danielle. Tom votes for Dolores. Okay, so I'm wondering if Dolores and Tom honestly have something going on where they're like, listen, we don't have to get our hands bloody. We don't have to try to vote people out that accidentally stay. Let's just keep voting each other. You know, now that Chriselle's gone. Britney votes for Carolyn. Dylan has the deciding vote, and he kicks off Carolyn. And there was this great moment where Carolyn's crying and she looks at Dylan. She's like, please don't do this to me. And Dylan has to choose between Carolyn and Danielle, two people that I think he feels close to, although it feels like he's close with everybody every week that's about to go out. Ugh, Dylan, stop being so nice to everybody. It's supposed to be just us, okay? Fine, whatever. This is so Dylan of you. The group is so excited they got a traitor. And this is the moment that we see replaying over and over and over again on your Instagram reels, on your TikTok feeds, on TV, on commercials leading up to the finale. Danielle is hunched over on the floor and Dolores and Britney are trying to pick her up. And she's got this felt hat on, this like camel colored felt hat. And she's shaking and crying. Like she just survived war in the trenches and a bomb went off right in front of her that blew up her friend and she's shell-shocked. You know, it's just this overplayed performance. And if we thought the crying at the breakfast table wasn't bad, this is brutal. It's so hard to watch. Gabby then calls attention to it and says it was a battle that was giving Rob and Bob, and says maybe she's just traumatized, which is hilarious. Gabby's sound bites these last episodes are just like peak performance. I expect they'll bring her back because her commentary has been such a hit this season. She's funnier than Kate ever was, you know? And so now we're going into it that Danielle has to recruit, a forced recruit. And we all know she's going with Britney. So they leave us on the cliffhanger as if Britney's not going to accept this. I mean, it's great for her to come in this late in the game as a traitor. It's the last possible time that the traitors can recruit. And no one suspects Britney. So it's a great moment for her to jump in. Okay, call me a sucker for the production of it all. But Britney accepting the traitor's position actually has me happy for them. And I know how dumb it is that I'm buying into this moment. Am I Team Big Brother? Like, am I going for these two girls? I am such a sucker for underdogs. And I now feel like everyone knows Danielle's a traitor. She's such an underdog. I can't believe that I'm actually having a moment watching this show where I'm like, considering rooting for Britney and Danielle. There's no way. I'm just being honest. Britney has a great quote. She, tells Danielle, Tom and Gabby are onto you. And I'm kind of shocked that Britney doesn't want to kill Gabby over Tom. And this conversation in the turret between the two of them is the gameplay that I've been missing this entire season. I have wanted to see the traitors working together and having conversations like this, breaking down who should be eliminated. And Britney's so smart, and the two of them speak the same language from Big Brother, and you can listen and understand their gameplay and how they're doing it in the turret. And I think it's really interesting, and honestly, it's probably the best decision Danielle's made so far as a traitor in killing Tom. And I was devastated. I was like, oh, no, I just wanted to see Tom go all the way. But then we get this amazing soundbite, which is so classic Tom. Tom handles it exactly how I expect him to handle it.
It's chaos. Hi, Tom. Hi, Tom.
I knew it. I knew it.
Tom, by the order of the traitors, you have been murdered. I was expecting this. Who's the most threatening of the guys? Obviously me. I've enjoyed this so much, and I didn't realize I was gonna be so good at it. It's kind of fucking cool. Overall, I was a pleasure to work with for the most part, and valued, respected, and that's all I can ask for.
This was like fun for him. He was really just into the game aspect.
R.I.P. Tom. R.I.P. You'll be missed. And I think it's absolutely comical how he said he was a pleasure to work with and he was respected. And I love that he's going out thinking that he's such a threat. I mean, it must have been a major confidence boost for Tom. And I think he had a lot of fun on the show, and he was able to go in and just like let his guard down and just try to sniff out the traitors the whole time. And I had a really good time watching him, so. And I think a lot of people came around, including myself, on Tom. I can't believe it. I can't believe traitors made me like Tom Sandoval again. But here we are. Here we are. I'm not afraid to change my mind. That's something that if you stick around and we're watching these shows together and we're talking about these people, you will find that I am not afraid to change my mind, and a good argument can win me over. So Danielle goes back into the house and Danielle tells Dylan, "You are my person." And she starts trying to win people over because Britney tipped her off that people are on to her. And she knows going into this last round table, she has to try to survive. She has to rally the troops. She has to get some numbers in her favor before the round table. And Dylan is an ear for Gabby. He's an ear for everybody. And so Danielle wants to go and reinforce her relationship with Dylan. Danielle and Britney are making really crazy faces at the breakfast table, and the camera's catching all of them. And I just wonder how no one sees the faces that they're making. I mean, how no one is on to Danielle. They're all on to Danielle. They have to all know Danielle is a traitor. There's no way they don't. Now, here's something I thought. If Dolores was a traitor, this would be amazing gameplay because she's so vocal at the breakfast table about thinking Tom is a traitor to the group. It's impossible that she's a traitor because she's literally calling out how Tom's going to come in because he's a traitor. And it made me think, if I'm ever on Traitors, I got to make a note of this one. I got to be so bold. I got to speak like Dolores at the breakfast table. That way no one suspects that I'm not a faithful. Because again, if I'm going into Traitors, I'm going to be a traitor. Well, that's it. Alan announces that this is going to be the last roundtable before the finale. Something we know, but like just raises the stakes. And it makes me think they're going to leave this breakfast table and they're going to start playing right away. It's going to be the earliest start to the gameplay day before the challenge that we have seen yet in the game. And Dolores is such a sweet, sweet woman. She really inherently trusts Danielle. I can tell that she's connecting with Danielle like on this mom level. And she's like, no, I believe anything this person tells me because she's a mom and she, you know, swore on her kids and her grandkids. And a woman like Dolores would never do something like that. So she can't imagine that Danielle's lying to her. So she blindly trusts Danielle. So that's a number in Danielle's pocket going into that round table. When I was watching this episode and this conversation between Dylan and Britney started to happen, I was stoned. And I left a voice memo on my phone for me to play for all of us right now so we can hear my thoughts about the conversation between Dylan and Britney. I have not listened to this since I recorded it, so... Oh my God, hello. I am absolutely gagging right now at this conversation between Dylan and Britney. I just can't believe the tension between them two and how good Britney's performing in this conversation. Like, I'm so impressed. She's saying the perfect things to spoon feed Dylan. And I think Dylan in his gut still knows it's Danielle that's a traitor. But the fact that Britney's giving him another option and a great reason, I think he's going to take it to the finale to accuse Danielle. I just think I'm so excited about how they're going to swing this. And I love Gabby, but like Britney's gameplay right now this is what a Big Brother gameplay should be like on this show. This is what people like hype Danielle up that she was a great game player. This is the kind of stuff that like, since Britney was offered the cape, okay, she is playing the game. Her strategy and her analysis of people is on point, and she knows exactly how to talk to Dylan right now, exactly what information she needs to give him. And like Dylan trusts that Britney genuinely trusts Danielle. So he's going to have like a real conversation with her. I don't think he thinks she's a traitor, because she wasn't up until like 12 hours ago. Okay, sorry. My geek out rant is over.
Smoke weed every day.
All right, so it's safe to say that I was impressed. If Britney had been a traitor longer, I think we would have had a much more interesting game to watch here on our hands. Danielle and Gabby sitting in the library together is iconic. It is iconic. It is a battle of women. It is something we've never seen on reality TV before. It is a silent standoff. It is pure energy. Okay? It's pure energy. Neither one is going to chicken out of the room. They're both going to sit there in silence until the competition. And neither of them are going to flutter. And it's hilarious, the tension between them. And then the confessionals that they're editing with. I mean, incredible. I just love. And Danielle is talking so much shit. She's talking so much shit. I don't know if it's the confidence from kicking off Carolyn the night before or if it's just like her hyping herself up. But I'm rooting for Gabby, okay? We are all rooting for Gaggy to take her out. It's the most female gaze scene of conflict in reality TV I think I've ever seen. It's the camera is so female gaze, just letting them sit there in serious, like dramatic tension. They're not fighting, but they are fighting. It's energetic fighting. I just can't get over how awesome and stupid this is. So we go to the challenge and these clowns are moving around. And you have to find which clown has a balloon filled with golden confetti and pop it. If you pop the black ones, you're out, right? And Gabby has a great quote. She says, "Formations that are out of control. And I was an NFL cheerleader for 4 seasons." And I was like, oh my God, Gabby was a cheerleader too. There's nothing this woman can't do. Literally. Also, they all have these creepy dolls and they have to pull the cords on them to try to get different amounts of money. And Dylan's doll is so scary. He has this like little potato face and it's the creepiest doll out of all the dolls. Okay, so then they get to this point where they have to like rummage through these bags of manure and look for like coins. And that's going to reveal who has the seer ability. And Dylan is so smart. He is watching how each person is playing. And Danielle is playing so fucking hard. He sees it, he clocks it. And he's like, why is she playing so hard? Because she's a traitor and she doesn't want us to see her. And I mean, you could say that about anybody, but he's right. So I love that. And she was playing probably her hardest, running around through those digging through those bags of manure. Gabby said, "My manicure is devastated. There aren't enough wipes to clean what's under my nails." Britney has another really smart move and she goes to Ivor and she sits down with him and she cries to Ivor that Danielle's her friend and she could never vote her out. She promised her and like she just couldn't do it, and Ivor consoles her. So Britney's covering her ground going into the round table. No matter what happens, she's going to be voting for Danielle, and she's covered her bases with Ivor so he doesn't suspect that she could also be a traitor if Danielle gets kicked out, because he trusts that like Britney's just a really good friend and an emotional woman. Britney knows that Dylan knows that Danielle and Britney are friends. But Ivor is loud when he goes to accuse somebody, and Britney wants to make sure that Ivor doesn't suspect her if Danielle's kicked out, or just for having Danielle's back in the first place. So she really lays that groundwork. And going into the round table, we have this stalemate vote and a cliffhanger of the episode that now everyone is talking about. Who did Britney vote for? And my guess is this: Britney votes for Danielle to stay and she puts Ivor on her chalkboard because she's done the groundwork with Ivor already. She's not going to go and betray Danielle again. She's recovered her relationship, end quote, with Danielle this season of Traitors from reindeer games. She's done the groundwork with Ivor so she can keep having Danielle's back at this round table. And that way, if Danielle goes and Ivor stays, Ivor's not mad directly at Britney for it, or at least maybe it's diffused a little bit. So I think Britney has Ivor's name on her chalkboard, and then we're going to have to go and do a chance. Alan said that if they have a second tie, the eliminated person will be Chance. And everyone's aflutter online guessing who wins Traitors. And everyone's like looking at Danielle and saying, she looks rich. Like she looks like she's had some treatments done. I think Danielle wins. And I don't think there's any chance of Danielle winning. Maybe Danielle went home and saw how her I think they're called mermaid braids, but they're hard to upkeep if you don't have all your right products. And I'm sure she wasn't familiar with the climate in Scotland. It's probably humid or something because they're right off the loch, aren't they? And anyway, I'm sure she saw how crazy her hair looked and like got her hair freshened up and everything for this reunion that's coming up. So maybe she did win the money, but maybe she just did go and get herself cleaned up after the competition of the show. Going into the finale, want to see the faithfuls win. I love Britney and I love the gameplay she's brought in the last like 24 hours, but I don't think she necessarily deserves to win it. I think she could win it because no one suspects her. She doesn't have an ounce of suspicion on her because she joined so late in the game. I think that if Danielle survives, they're going to eliminate Danielle, and they're probably going to eliminate Gabby at the fire pit. It would be really cool if Dylan and Gabby, not Ivor, I hate Ivor, if Dylan and Gabby could win together. But I have a feeling that Britney wins. I do. I feel like they trust Britney, and Britney, being a remaining traitor, takes the money, scams them all, and everyone's kind of like, well, meh. Dylan did ease the rundown and actually quoted Alan by saying,
summed it up perfectly. It's a very strange ending. Like, it shouldn't have happened what happened.
Wait, that's really weird that you say that. It shouldn't have happened what happened? Now my interest is even more piqued. I didn't think I could be more curious.
I wouldn't have ever predicted this ending.
Catch up on the rest of Dylan's adventure on Traitors.
it sounds like there's some kind of a really boring outcome, which wouldn't surprise me if that means that Britney won because she joined so late, no one suspected her, and they got Danielle out the bonfire because Ivor doesn't survive chance. So let's assume that Britney puts Ivor's name down. We have another tie, and we do the game of chance, and Ivor is kicked out. So Danielle goes on to the bonfire or the pit or whatever we want to call it at the finale where they all stand around the fire together. So we'll have Dylan, Gabby, Britney, and Danielle. And the group votes Danielle out. And then they assume that they're all faithfuls and Britney's still in there, then Britney wins. I feel like something like that is going to happen. That's the only combination that's, unless Ivor wins, which would be a shock, I still think that would be more interesting to Dylan and to Alan Cummings if Ivor won. So my prediction is it's Britney putting all the information together, but we'll see this Thursday. Let me know who you think is going to win. It's been a great season. I mean, there's been so much to talk about, so much going on. I do want to see a season that's got more intensity and more strategy behind it and more egos. I want an ego-fueled season. I'm so bummed that Dorinda got kicked off early because, I really wanted her to get loaded and scream at some people. That's what Dorinda does best. So, it was just a bummer that we lost, the Wests and the Dorindas so early. All right, next up, this week we had the Oscars, and there were so many amazing looks, and it was so star-studded, as it always is. Some of the movies this year were really boring. I personally was rooting for The Substance to take as many wins as possible. I thought that was a risky script, and I thought they did an incredible job. I'm rooting for genre to do well at the Academy Awards because I feel like the Academy generally frowns against genre movies, genre being horror, comedy, musicals, whatever, westerns. Generally they don't do very well, and drama takes the cake. I hate that drama is seen so much higher than the other things because comedy and horror are really hard to do well. The timing is everything, and I think the average person can make a decent drama. So I thought that was all interesting. We won't get into that stuff, but what I do want to get into is the Vanity Fair Oscar party. This is an after party that starts an hour after the broadcast of the Oscars. And every year for the last 6 or 7 years, maybe even longer, I've tuned into either the Vanity Fair website or this year, the YouTube live stream coverage of their party. And in the past, it was one static camera and someone, just interviewing people. But this year, Hannah Berner and Paige DeSorbo of Summer House and of Giggly Squad were hosting the red carpet with Tan from Queer Eye. And I tuned in and watched the entire coverage of the red carpet, watched all their interviews and everything. I TikToked some of their interviews. A couple of them got really big hits. They met for the first time. Bowen Yang and Matt Rogers of Las Culturistas. And if you're into that podcast as well, which you might be. I mean, we're all in the same world. We all like the same stuff. So it was really fun to watch them like gab and kiki it up on the carpet and meet each other for the first time and joke around. But I will give some constructive criticism here. They talked a lot about taking beta blockers, and I think they needed a lot more because it felt like they did a line of coke and walked onto that red carpet and were like yammering over everybody. And I know Hannah was nervous because she kept looking at herself in the monitor and she kept talking over the guest. And she was like rapid fire asking questions, like question. And I think it was in the Vanessa Hudgens interview. Like Vanessa like literally looks to Paige for help and then is thinking about like just waiting for Hannah to stop talking for her to pick a question and answer it. It was awkward. It was really awkward. And I think they'll get better as they do it more. But I also have a bone to pick with Hannah for making Paige stand on camera left so Hannah could have camera right for her, quote, good side. Hot take, Paige should have been camera right and Hannah should have been camera left. And I know Hannah is going on and on about her good side, but Paige had an asymmetrical dress. And so because Paige is a good friend and took camera left, we had to look at this giant seam and zipper on her dress the whole time instead of seeing like the pretty exposed shoulder if she was on camera right. So next year, Paige better get camera right. And we got to give like 20 more beta blockers to Hannah because the rapid fire questions, it was insane. It was exhausting. And I don't think talent responded to it. Relax. Let people talk. You don't need to like, I get the podcast banter and like filling the void and not having silence, but like a red carpet interview is different. And I've worked a ton of red carpets. I used to volunteer at a lot of film festival and, you know, at Lincoln Center, I used to do red carpet work in New York City and stuff like that. And I used to introduce talent to the media and see how it's all done. So I spent lots of time on the red carpet and I've watched these interviews for years, the Vanity Fair one, the Oscars, whatever. There's a method to it. And I think that if they just took a moment, both Hannah's sides look the same. She doesn't have like a big dramatic difference in one side or the other. I'm sure she says she does. But at the end of the day, red carpet work, talking about fashion, meeting celebrities, Paige is the bigger pull here and the bigger star. She should get camera right. She should get preference of what looks most flattering on camera. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. That's what I believe. But I love seeing them together. They did a great job. Maybe next year. Maybe if they get the opportunity next year. Okay, Summer House. So the first thing I actually want to do is there's a lot of talk about West going on and doing these interviews with like the New York Times and stuff at Ciara's expense. So I actually pulled up the June 12th, 2024 article with the New York Times that West did that Ciara's talking about in the episodes that we've seen so far. And I wanted to read it. I'm going to read the article. So fast forward if you don't want to hear me read the article, but I'm going to read it. That way we can have a sense of what West said and what's bothering Ciara. This article is written by Jessica Roy, and I've noticed that Jessica Roy also did West's previous interview with the New York Times. She seems to be reporting on a lot of the reality TV coverage for the New York Times. So the title is West Wilson of Summer House discusses his first taste of infamy. When Mr. Wilson was accused on the reunion of misleading Ciara Miller, his castmate and former romantic interest, fan backlash was swift. So this is the article that follows the reunion, but is prior to the 4th of July start of the season of the show. This is one of the many articles that Ciara is upset about that he did. When a 28-year-old unemployed journalist named Westling Wilson, goes by West, was enthusiastically embraced by Bravo fans during his first season on the reality TV show Summer House this year, it made some wonder, could he keep the good vibes going? Last week, many viewers issued a resounding answer to that question: no. Over the course of the first episode of Summer House Reunion on Thursday, Mr. Wilson went in some viewers' eyes from fan favorite to villain, due largely to the way he handled a breakup with his co-star Ciara Miller. Miss Miller, a 28-year-old nurse and model from Atlanta who has been on the show for several seasons, is known for not warming easily to new people, which made it all the more surprising when she and Mr. Wilson seemed to hit it off almost immediately. By the middle of the latest season, the two were cuddling, sleeping in the same bed at their shared Hamptons house, and going on dates in New York City. Their will they, won't they tension was a main storyline, and audiences were fervently rooting for them to make it official. Their romantic fate wasn't revealed until last week when Mr. Wilson and Ms. Miller said in the first episode of a two-part reunion that after several months of dating, during which Mr. Wilson took her to Missouri to visit his parents, he told Ms. Miller in December that he wasn't ready to commit to a monogamous relationship. At the reunion, Andy Cohen, the host, prompted the two to litigate the breakup in front of TV cameras. Ms. Miller said that Mr. Wilson told her he couldn't commit basically for show-related reasons. Mr. Wilson then said that at the time of the breakup, he was worried about what perceptions would be when the show began airing. He added that he had to make appearances with the heavily female Bravo audience and that it would be a bad look to go to these watch parties with women. A visibly flustered Mr. Wilson then said that another reason for breaking up with Ms. Miller, which he admitted was narcissistic, was that they were often referred to on social media as Ciara and Newbie Guy. He worried he would come off as a dude who came onto the show and is just Ciara's puppet the whole time, as he put it. And that's a quote. This prompted a verbal evisceration from Ms. Miller's best friend and co-star, Paige DeSorbo, who accused him of caring more about the allure of the show than the allure of Ms. Miller. Mr. Wilson said in an interview on Monday that he regretted using the show as an excuse for the breakup, but he did so to avoid further hurting Ms. Miller's feelings. I don't think it was right, this is a quote, I don't think it was right to place the end of the relationship on those things, end quote, he said. Quote, I think I would have read more honest if I was just like, the relationship ran its course. I don't think we were meant to be together. That's it. I think me trying to deflect the actual relationship and name all these external things really made me sound like an idiot, end quote. As quickly as the pendulum swung in Mr. Wilson's favor while the season was airing after the first reunion episode, it swung back even more swiftly. Quote, I'm never trusting a straight man ever again, end quote. The comedian Joel Kim Booster wrote in a post on X, I have been made to look a fool, humiliated, and devastated. You have made a powerful enemy, sir. Mr. Booster had previously posted that he hadn't liked a straight white man as much as Mr. Wilson since friggin' Bernie Sanders. I don't think I've ever seen the goodwill of the Bravoverse turn so fast than it did on West, another post on X by Bravo fan account @BravoOhMyGod said. It took a total of 7 minutes for the tides to turn. Mr. Wilson said that after filming the reunion in early May, he knew it hadn't gone well, but he never expected the level of vitriol fans were now throwing at him. It's so much worse than expected, he said. I thought people would be upset that we didn't work out. I had no clue that I would be getting the hate that I have gotten. Some have compared Mr. Wilson to Tom Sandoval, a star of Bravo's Vanderpump Rules. The other fans and even Ms. DeSorbo felt such a characterization was going too far. Mr. Wilson called the comparisons to someone who cheated on his girlfriend of 10 years shocking, he added. I feel like I've been blacked out for the last 5 days. There is, of course, a learning curve when it comes to reality TV stardom. How Mr. Wilson handles the fallout of the reunion and filming for season 9 this summer will dictate whether he's due for a redemption arc or if he'll become another Bravo villain. He said that his cast members gave him a hard time during the reunion. They have largely been supportive, reaching out to say, "We've all been hated from time to time. Just give it time and you'll be okay," he said. Still, he expects the first few weeks of filming the new season to be awkward. Ultimately, I think I handled the reunion horribly and was nervous and said the wrong things, Mr. Wilson said, but I still stand on the decision I made. I think our relationship ran its course. I hope the decision doesn't haunt me forever, even though I still think it's the right one. That's the article. I can see why Ciara's mad. He basically went on there talking about being afraid of being seen as a puppet and that saying a bunch of stuff about their relationship when she's trying to move on, talking about him, saying it ran its course and how, he's kind of taking accountability in here. But if Ciara is expecting closure, which I think we can see on the show, she's trying to establish some kind of weird sense of closure, which doesn't exist. Okay, closure is not real. She's trying to get some sense of closure with him, and he's going and talking to the New York Times about this stuff, and then saying he expects the first few weeks of filming to be weird. I can see why that makes her feel uncomfortable and why she doesn't like him for doing this stuff. One, she doesn't want to feel uncomfortable with him. She's sad it didn't work out. He played her, okay? He played her like a fiddle. He decided he wanted to fuck Bravo fans and these women that go to the bars to watch the episodes. He wanted to hook up with all of them instead of with Ciara, which is crazy. And that he wanted that attention and that limelight. And so he wanted to put it on the most public display and do it with the New York Times. And Ciara, going into the season, was probably nervous to see her ex share a house with her ex. And then he goes and says this kind of stuff, which makes her also feel insecure. So I'm siding with Ciara. I mean, it's no surprise. I've been shit-talking Wes so far this season, and I'll probably keep doing it. But I thought reading into this article was really interesting. And I'm kind of curious to see more of what Ms. Jessica Roy has been reporting on. What other Bravoholics she's covered. Was she the one that did the big Sandoval episode or the Scandoval article? I kind of want to check it out and see what else she's written. Maybe something we can talk about down the road. So we find out, though, in a recent episode that Paige and Hannah are going on a 60-stop tour for Giggly Squad, and that's fucking awesome. That's 60 stops. I don't know how they're going to do it, but that's a big tour for a podcast. That's a huge success. And it's not a surprise. They sold out Radio City. I think they did 2 shows at Radio City. So it's not a surprise they're doing a 60-stop tour, but that's pretty major. That's like a band touring. They're going to do really well, I think. I just want to take a moment to say that I was right. The first opportunity Lindsay gets, she's mentioning breaking the cycle with her baby. And I stand by my theory that all her trauma tied into her creating that timeline 9 seasons ago that she had with Everett, and she never broke it along the way. She never abandoned the timeline. She might have abandoned the man. She might have abandoned the partners, but she didn't abandon the timeline. She stuck to it. Now she's got this baby. So I stand by it all being a source of her childhood trauma, her thinking that her having kids will create this permanent family and that she can give the baby what she didn't have. Just confirms everything. Okay. Lexi and Jesse. I can't. I hate it. Jesse is such a fuckboy. They go on this little date, right? And I just can't handle how icky he is. I know she's buying into it because, like West last season, she's looking to ship something so that she's got more of a storyline and purpose on the show this season, secures a spot next season. However, they're on the date and Jesse asks her if they are going to share a bed. And Lexi says she doesn't casual date. She needs things to be official first. She can't be more clear. Then Jesse says, oh, I think that's a little fast. Well, then guess what, Jesse? You just said it. It's a little too fast. But no, then he goes, stick with me, kid. I'm learning. I swear I've heard Shep say that. I swear to fucking God, I've heard Shep say, stick with me, kid. He's literally, Jesse is giving himself the cop-out right here to cheat on Lexi or to hurt Lexi or to go flirt with a girl a la Carl in front of Lexi. Because he's saying to her, I'm new at this. I'm learning at this. Just stick with me. I'll figure it out. I might make some mistakes along the way. That's what he's doing. And it's so gross and icky. And I just want Lexi to run for the hills and just like have a great summer. Don't try to couple up with Jesse. He's gross and his giant teeth are gross and his songs are gross. Everything's gross. These guys are all gross. I just want a summer house with just girls, honestly. We need to talk about the Kyle rage text. Everyone's talking about it. I'm not going to dig deep into it, read it, because everyone else is doing that. But I just have to say, Kyle is so unprofessional. Kyle is a bad businessman. And you know why? Because Paige DeSorbo is the biggest name on this show right now. Paige DeSorbo crosses shows. She's on Southern Charm. She's on Winter House. She's on more things than any other cast member of Summer House. She has the biggest following. Her podcast, as we just said, is getting a 60-stop tour, okay? Giggly Squad is going 60 places. That's crazy. And they just did a tour. That's crazy. Kyle has had Paige holding those Loverboy cans since it started. Every season, like 4 seasons of Paige drinking and holding Loverboy, endorsing Loverboy, going to Loverboy events, supporting Loverboy. And Kyle has the nerve to send her a text shit-talking her podcast partner, her friend, and her boyfriend. He's such an idiot. He needs Paige. He shouldn't be creating trouble for Paige. He should be kissing Paige's butt to go out and support his brand. I know Paige is doing it to support Amanda. Paige wants to support Amanda. She has to support Loverboy, which is Kyle's baby. Because Amanda's part of that too, and Amanda benefits from that too. And they're friends, and I get it. But Kyle is putting her in a really tough position, and Paige doesn't have to hold cans of Loverboy. Paige can go drink tequila or drink something else at the parties. Paige doesn't need to go anywhere near the bar with the Loverboy product. It's bad business, Kyle. Okay? It's bad business. You don't make the talent angry. And for your brand, Paige is talent. Okay, Danielle comes into the house and Danielle is being so weird. It's so Danielle for Danielle to be overthinking the fact that she wasn't there the first weekend of the summer and that she's maybe a friend of this season. I'm not sure if that's her official designation or if she's going to be there every weekend, but I think I heard that she's a friend of this season. If you're not familiar with Bravo lingo, a friend of is not a reoccurring cast member, but it is a friend of someone that is a reoccurring cast member. So that means they can appear from time to time. So Danielle comes into the house and she's like, hello, oh my God, it's so weird being here. Oh my God, there's a stranger in your house, like saying all this weird. She's just so cringe. She's so insecure. She thinks everyone is talking about the fact that she's not a reoccurring person this season or that she wasn't there the first weekend. And frankly, no one noticed. Okay? But she comes in and she does make a good knock at Lindsay. She goes, they're talking about this like gender reveal party. Of course, Lindsay's doing a gender reveal party. Lindsay's going to do every damn step along the way, you know, anything. And Danielle goes, are we doing another sponsored post or... And I laughed. I thought that was really funny. I was like, okay, Danielle, if you can come in and throw us some more of that, maybe next season you could be back as a cast member. okay? But you got to throw more shade. Another thing that really bothers me about Summer House is how the front porch is just like littered with boxes. And they pretty much just sit there and wait until they have whatever themed party that the contents of the boxes are there to support. I call it the landfill show because I believe that of every show on Bravo, Summer House creates the most waste. They buy all these junky costumes. They buy these junky decorations. I know their theme parties are part of the vibe, but I am happy to see that this season they're renting stuff and buying less. But still, there's boxes on the porch. It's just so trashy. It bothers me. I wish that they wouldn't create so much garbage. There's enough garbage. Well, hey, listen, I gotta go. We've got the Traitors finale that's literally starting in like 15 minutes for me. I have to fight all the urges to buy Carl Radke's lame merch. That's so lame, it's ironically cool. And I guess next week we'll have to cover Real Housewives of Beverly Hills because Traitors is just dominating my existence. I need to know who wins, but just to summarize my prediction here on the show before we go into the finale, I think Britney's going to remain faithful to Danielle. She's done the groundwork. She's going to vote for Ivor. Therefore, it's going to go down to chance. I think Ivor's going to be sent home on the chance at the bonfire pit. I think they're going to go against Danielle. Danielle's going to be sent packing. Then they're going to turn on Gabby. Dylan's going to turn on Gabby. Gabby's going to be sent packing. And it's going to be Britney, Dolores, and Dylan at the end because Britney's a traitor. She's going to take the cash. That's my prediction. Meeting adjourned. Until next week, keep your champagne cold and your taglines iconic.